In the late 16th century, France was a kingdom at war with itself. Religion, once a unifying force, had become a cause of bloodshed. Towns were divided, noble houses stood against each other, and the throne itself was threatened by decades of civil conflict between Catholics and Protestants. Amid this chaos, a young prince from the small border kingdom of Navarre would emerge, a man who would bring unity to a fractured realm. His name was Henry. Before he was hailed as Henry the Great or remembered as the first king of the Bourbon dynasty, he was Henry of Navarre. A boy born into conflict, shaped by survival, and destined to become one of the most transformative monarchs in French history. This is the story of his rise, of how a Huguenot prince, born on the edge of royal power, navigated war, betrayal, and political strife to claim the throne of France. Born on December 13, 1553, in the royal Château de Pau, in the Kingdom of Navarre, Henry of Bourbon entered the world during one of the most turbulent periods in French history. He was the son of Antoine de Bourbon, Duke of Vendôme, and Jeanne d'Albret, Queen of Navarre. His father belonged to a powerful branch of the French royal family, the House of Bourbon, while his mother was a staunch Protestant and a leading figure in the growing Huguenot movement. Through Jeanne, Henry inherited the small but strategically important Kingdom of Navarre in the Pyrenees. Through Antoine, he was part of the extended Valois royal family, which placed him in the line of succession to the French throne. Henry's early upbringing was shaped by both courtly expectations and religious conflict. His mother raised him in the Calvinist faith, a decision that would significantly shape his political and personal identity. While still a child, he was sent to Paris for education and exposure to the royal court, but his Protestant background made him an outsider in the heavily Catholic capital. By the 1560s, France was engulfed in a series of brutal civil wars between Catholics and Protestants, known collectively as the Wars of Religion. As the heir to Navarre and one of the highest-ranking Protestant nobles in the kingdom, Henry became a central figure in this conflict almost from the start. His first major political move came in 1572 when he agreed under strong political pressure to marry Margaret of Valois, the sister of King Charles X of France. This marriage, arranged by Catherine de' Medici, was intended to be a gesture of reconciliation between Catholics and Protestants. But what followed instead was one of the darkest events in French history. Only days after the wedding, on August 24, 1572, the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre erupted in Paris. Thousands of Protestants who had gathered in the capital for the royal wedding were slaughtered by Catholic mobs with the approval of the royal court. Henry's own life hung in the balance. Trapped in the Louvre and surrounded by hostile forces, he was forced to convert to Catholicism in order to save himself. He remained effectively a prisoner at court for 4 years, closely watched and distrusted by both sides. In 1576, Henry managed to escape the royal court and return to his native Béarn. Once free, he renounced his forced Catholicism and formally rejoined the Protestant cause. It was during this time that he assumed leadership of the Huguenot forces, not just as a military commander, but as a symbol of their political aspirations. He led several campaigns during the later stages of the religious wars, demonstrating both military skill and political pragmatism. Then in 1584, a major shift occurred that changed Henry's position in French politics forever. The heir presumptive to the French throne, François, Duke of Anjou, died without leaving a successor. Since King Henry III had no children, the next in line according to Salic law, France's strict rule of male succession, was none other than Henry of Navarre. This made him the legal heir to the French crown, even though he was a Protestant in a deeply Catholic country. The news of Henry's succession claim shocked the Catholic establishment and led to a renewed and violent phase of the religious wars. A coalition known as the Catholic League, backed by Spain and led by the ultra-Catholic House of Guise, vowed to prevent Henry from ever becoming king. France was plunged into yet another civil war, now often called the War of the Three Henrys, named after King Henry III, Henry of Guise, and Henry of Navarre. Despite this opposition, Henry of Navarre gained important allies and victories over the next few years. When King Henry III was assassinated in 1589 by a fanatical monk, Henry of Navarre legally became King Henry IV of France. However, his title was not immediately accepted. Much of Catholic France refused to recognize a Protestant king, and Henry had to fight a long and difficult war to secure his crown. He won key military victories, including the Battle of Ivry in 1590, but control of Paris and recognition from a Catholic establishment still eluded him. It was during this crucial period that Henry made a monumental decision that would change the course of French history. In 1593, after years of conflict and recognizing that no lasting peace could be achieved without Catholic support, he converted to Catholicism, famously saying, "Paris is well worth a mass." His pragmatic move opened the gates of Paris to him, and in 1594 he was formally crowned King of France in the Cathedral of Chartres. With his coronation, Henry IV became the first Bourbon King of France. His reign marked the end of decades of civil war and the beginning of a fragile peace. But his work was just beginning. As king, he would need to rebuild a broken kingdom, reconcile divided religious factions, and re-establish royal authority. This was the man who rose from the chaos of civil war and the stain of massacre to unite a fractured nation. In the next episode, we'll look deeper into the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre and how it shaped both the fate of France and the survival instincts of the man who would one day be called Henry the Great.